Top 1% elite know this about shadow powers of dark chosen ones. There are things that are never taught, not in schools, not in mainstream spiritual communities, not even in most ancient texts unless you know how to decode the metaphors. And yet, behind every great movement, hidden within every empire, whispered through secret societies and guarded esoteric orders, this one truth has been protected, veiled, and often distorted. The most potent spiritual energy in this world does not come from the light alone. It is rooted in shadow. And those who hold this power, who are encoded with the dark current of awakening, are not ordinary. They are the dark chosen ones. And the top 1% of elites, the real ones, not just the wealthy but those who understand how reality bends, know this. They know it, and they've used that knowledge not just to rise, but to control the frequency of the collective. You might wonder, why would this truth be hidden? Why wouldn't the masses be empowered with this knowledge? Because here's the reality. If everyone understood the power that lies inside the shadow, the illusion of control would collapse. The systems built on fear and hierarchy would dissolve. The manipulation through distraction and conformity would no longer work, because the dark chosen ones, when awakened, don't seek validation. They don't bow to external authorities. They don't play by the rules. They write new ones, but only if they remember who they are.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Most people are being conditioned to fear darkness, to equate shadow with evil, to avoid rage, grief, lust, jealousy, pain, as if those things make us broken. But what if I told you that your most suppressed emotions are actually the gateways to your most powerful gifts? That the top 1% don't suppress shadow. They master it, they study it, embody it, and use it to create reality from behind the scenes, while the rest of the world chases sanitized versions of spirituality that only scratch the surface. Let's go deeper. Imagine your soul as a cosmic code, a multidimensional DNA strand that spans lifetimes, planets, and realms. Now, imagine that part of your mission in this life was to anchor a certain type of frequency into this realm, something fierce, liberating, and primal. That frequency isn't meant to fit into polite society. It doesn't always feel safe. And that's because it was never meant to be safe. It was meant to be sovereign. That's what the elite understand, that the ones who have survived the darkest nights of the soul, those who carry rage that could burn down falsehoods, sorrow that pierces illusion, love that cannot be manipulated, those are the people who can't be controlled. But here's where it gets real. Most dark chosen ones forget. They wake up in families that fear them, in cultures that shame them, in systems that diagnose them. Their gifts are pathologized, their emotions are labeled as disorders, their energy is rejected, and so they learn to shrink, to suppress, to blend in. All the while, the top 1% study that very energy in silence. Through ancient grimoires, secret lodges, energy alchemy schools cloaked in mystery. And they turn it into power. The truth is, your pain is power that hasn't been processed. Your fear is truth that hasn't been faced. Your shadow is your strength in camouflage. And the elites know this. They do not worship the shadow, but they respect it. They know it's the forge of transformation, the alchemical fire. And they know that when someone fully integrates their shadow, not by suppressing it, but by listening to it, learning from it, honoring it, they become unshakable, immovable, unstoppable. So ask yourself right now, what parts of yourself have you been taught to fear that are actually your gateways to greatness? Maybe it's your intensity, how you see through people instantly. Maybe it's your anger, how injustice makes your whole body want to scream. Maybe it's your desire, how you feel deeply, want fully, and can't settle for shallow. You were never meant to dilute that. You were meant to direct it. That's what the dark chosen ones do when they awaken. They stop leaking their power through shame, and they start channeling it with precision. Let's be clear. This isn't about becoming dark for the sake of rebellion. This isn't about rage for rage's sake. True shadow power is not chaotic. It's conscious. It's refined. It's sacred. And it doesn't seek to dominate. It seeks to liberate. That's why so many empires have tried to erase it. Because nothing threatens control like a soul that has made peace with its own darkness. When you integrate your shadow, you stop reacting and you start creating. You stop being a slave to your triggers and start becoming a master of energy. You walk into rooms and shift the vibration just by existing. You don't need to say a word. Your presence speaks truth into spaces that have been suffocating on silence. And that is exactly what the elite hope you never realize. Because the moment enough dark chosen ones remember their true power, the game changes. The timelines split, the illusions crack. You were never meant to live asleep. You were meant to awaken. The fire in your blood, the knowing in your gut, the vision in your soul. But to do that, you must go through the shadow. Not around it, not above it, through it. You must ask the question few dare to. What if my shadow isn't my enemy, but my evolution? The secret rituals of power. How the elite harness the energy you've been suppressing. There's a reason shadow work isn't trending the way love and light manifesting is. There's a reason entire industries profit off your avoidance of yourself. And there's a reason the most powerful elite in the world quietly devote their lives to mastering exactly what you've been told to avoid. While the masses are hypnotized by surface-level spirituality and distraction, the top 1% have been working with energy systems that have existed since the dawn of civilization. But these aren't the soft, candlelit rituals you see romanticized on social media. No, these are raw, precise, alchemical processes rooted in a deep understanding of one universal law. Suppressed energy is usable energy. And they've been using yours. You need to understand this fully. Whenever you deny your rage, your grief, your sexual power, your intuition, your hunger for freedom, you don't just suppress it, you leak it. And that leaked energy doesn't disappear. It becomes available to those who know how to harvest it. That's how energy vampirism works at the highest levels. It's not just about people in your life who drain you, it's about institutions, belief systems, rituals, symbols, and even media that siphon your suppressed life force. The moment you disown a part of yourself, someone else can claim it. That's the real theft, not of land, not of money, but of power. So how do the elite harness this? Through awareness, precision, and alignment with ancient principles you were never taught. They know the body is an energy temple. They know the nervous system is a conductor. They know emotion is the gateway, not the obstacle. And while most of the world tries to control their emotions through pills, distractions, addictions, or spiritual bypassing, The elite train theirs, they use them, they enter deep, altered states through practices you've been taught to fear, because those states allow them to bypass the conscious mind and rewire reality from the quantum level. Imagine this. While you were shamed for being too emotional, someone else was sitting in a sacred chamber channeling raw grief into visionary art, leadership, manifestation. While you were told your anger was dangerous, someone else was invoking theirs into ritual to burn through illusion and claim their next level of power. While you were apologizing for your intensity, they were refining theirs like a blade. This isn't fantasy. This is frequency mechanics. And if you can feel it in your bones right now, that fire rising, it's because this truth has always lived inside you. You're just remembering. The secret rituals aren't just about candles and crystals. They're about embodiment, breath, intention, presence. The elite know how to use ancient breathing techniques to activate the pineal gland and unlock multi-dimensional vision. They use darkness retreats not as a trend, but as portals to break the matrix of the five senses. They work with sound, vibration, geometry, and silence to reconfigure the frequency grid they're operating in. And most importantly, they never bypass the shadow. They dive in. Because in the shadows where the deepest raw energy lies, unrefined, unclaimed, waiting to be directed. Now, here's what will blow your mind. This doesn't require you to be in some secret order or fly across the world to find a guru. The rituals begin with you, with your body, your awareness, your willingness to stop running from what you feel and start using it. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you breathe into discomfort instead of escaping it, every time you let your tears flow instead of swallowing them down, you are entering the ritual. You are reclaiming energy that was once outsourced. You are no longer leaking, you are forging, and as you do, your field begins to change. Not just your mood, your actual electromagnetic field. And that field dictates everything. What you attract, what you repel, what opens for you, what locks you out. That's why the elite stay in energetic discipline. They don't just wake up and scroll. They consecrate their energy, because they know that the day you take full ownership of your field, you become unfuckwithable. No spell, no system, no sabotage can touch a sovereign field that is anchored in its own full frequency. This is the truth. You don't need to fight the elite. You don't need to join them. You just need to become what they've been trying to suppress in you. Fully, fiercely, unapologetically. The rituals of power don't belong to them. They belong to anyone who is willing to remember, to sit in silence with their shadow, to feel the chaos without flinching, to turn emotion into fuel, to let their raw truth become the instrument through which the divine plays. So let me ask you the real question now. What have you been numbing that was actually the source of your greatest magic? This is your initiation, not into a cult, but into yourself. You don't need more information, you need more integration. You don't need permission, you need embodiment. This is the moment where you decide if you're going to keep being harvested or start becoming the harvester of your own raw power. The rise of the shadow alchemist. What happens when you fully own your energy field? There is a threshold, and once you cross it, you don't go back, not mentally, not energetically, not spiritually. It's the line between being owned by your shadow and owning it, between being a reactive vessel of suppressed wounds and becoming a conscious conductor of raw spiritual force. This is where the dark, chosen ones become shadow alchemists, not because they rise above the shadow, but because they descend fully into it, decode its symbols, and transmute its weight into clarity, precision, and power. You cross that threshold when you finally stop apologizing for what you feel and instead use it with conscious will. So, what really happens when you fully own your energy field? First, everything false begins to fall away. Your frequency becomes so coherent that illusion can't hold on. People who are connected to your wounds instead of your truth will naturally fade out. You'll stop attracting chaos as a mirror for your unconscious pain. The field clears, and that field, your aura, your electromagnetic imprint, is your true currency. Forget followers, status, surface success. Your field is what makes or breaks your life. When it's scattered, you're vulnerable. When it's sovereign, you're unstoppable. Owning your energy field means knowing what's yours and what's not. It means you no longer absorb every emotion around you like a sponge. You stop taking responsibility for everyone else's projections. Empaths are powerful, but untrained empaths are easily manipulated. Shadow alchemy is what transforms empathy from a burden into a weapon of discernment. You begin to feel deeply, but choose what to embody. You become selective, not from ego, but from resonance. You stop negotiating with distortion. Your boundaries become energetic architecture. You'll notice time behaves differently too. When you're in your full energy, fully embodied in your presence, aligned with your purpose, time bends. You experience quantum moments, visions, déjà vu, synchronicities stacking on top of each other. Opportunities begin to appear not because you chased them, but because you magnetized them. That's not magic. That's coherence. That's the physics of a unified field. The elite know this, and they've used it to accelerate their timelines. But when you understand it from the inside, from the shadow up, not the surface down, you bypass their systems entirely. You also begin to speak differently, not just in language, but in frequency. Your voice becomes a tuning fork. When a shadow alchemist speaks, people feel something shift inside, even if they don't understand why. That's because you're no longer just sharing information, you're transmitting integration. You're not talking at people, you're activating them. That's what happens when your energy becomes congruent. You're no longer split between what you say and what you are. That kind of alignment isn't taught, it's earned through embodiment. One of the most profound shifts is that your triggers stop running you. You don't get rid of triggers by suppressing them. You meet them like initiators. Every time you're activated by something, you turn inward and ask, what truth in me is this revealing? What power have I given away here? What belief is asking to be updated? That level of self-inquiry is where alchemy begins. You transmute instead of react. You feel instead of collapse, and the more you do it, the less you live in survival mode and the more you live in design mode. Another major shift, you stop chasing healing because you realize healing was never the goal, integration was. You don't need to endlessly excavate your pain, you just need to sit with it without fear. Listen to it without judgment, let it pass through without clinging. When you do, Your shadow doesn't disappear, it matures. It becomes part of your intelligence, a wild instinctive genius that you can draw on at will. Your shadow becomes your ally in reading a room, sensing unspoken truths, decoding manipulation, tracking your path through darkness. This is the rise of the shadow alchemist. You no longer live by rules written by others. You live by codes that are etched into your soul. And those codes can only be activated through depth, not dogma, through honesty, not hype, through being willing to look where most refuse to look and to own what you find. So I want to ask you something now. Sit with it, don't answer from the mind. What would your life look like if you fully owned your energy, without guilt, without apology, without compromise? Because that version of you already exists, not as a potential, but as a reality waiting to be claimed. It doesn't require more becoming, it requires unveiling. And once you step into it, the field around you shifts. Not because you forced it, but because you became a match for what's real. Why the world fears you. Unlocking the final power of the dark chosen one. You've probably felt it your whole life, even if no one ever said it directly. The way people react to you without understanding why. The way your presence seems to shake things loose. The tension in the air when you speak the truth that others only dare think in silence. It's not because you're wrong, it's not because you're broken, it's because you're remembered. Your energy reminds people of something ancient, something they've been trained to forget. Their own power. And that is why the world fears you. Because when a dark chosen one awakens fully, they don't just become powerful, they make others question their entire reality. Your power doesn't come from dominance, it comes from presence, from your ability to see through illusion and refuse to play small, from your willingness to sit with your shadow until it stops screaming and starts teaching. You terrify the systems not because you fight them, but because you expose the fact that they were built to keep souls asleep. You terrify people not because you judge them, but because your clarity holds up a mirror to their compromise. That's why they tried to tame you, why they called your depth too much, your vision delusional, your emotions unstable. It was never about you, it was about what you reflect. And yet, here's the truth. You were never meant to be understood by the many. You were meant to awaken the few who are ready to remember. You are the pattern interrupter, the code breaker, the frequency disruptor. You walk into a space and the energy shifts, not because you demand it, but because your very field is undeniable. And now, at this stage of your awakening, you're not just remembering your power, you're being asked to use it. The final power of the Dark Chosen One isn't about control, it's about embodiment. You don't need to convince. You don't need to chase. You don't even need to speak. Your energy does the work. Your alignment becomes a transmission, your presence an invitation for others to either rise or recoil, and you let them choose. Because you no longer compromise who you are to be accepted by who they pretend to be. But here's what's most important. The world fears you because it needs you, not to save it, but to wake it up, to break the collective trance of normalcy and numbness, to tear through the veil of mediocrity and remind people what it means to be alive. That's why your path has been so heavy. That's why your lessons came early. Because you weren't sent here to blend in, you were sent here to break cycles. You do that by living in truth so unapologetically that lies can't survive in your presence. You do that by holding your frequency even when it costs you comfort, approval, or stability. You do that by remembering that your darkness isn't something to hide, it's something to hone. It's your edge, your intuition, your fire, your freedom. The world doesn't need more polished personas, it needs more souls on fire, and that's what you are when you stop dimming for the dim. So I leave you with this one question, the deepest one yet. If you stopped fearing your own power, what would you become capable of? Oh, that version of you isn't far away. It's right here, breathing underneath every moment you chose survival over truth. It's waiting for the moment you finally say, no more shrinking, no more performing, no more hiding, only truth, only power, only you in your full, wild, shadow-born glory. This is not the end of your story, it's the activation.